People in third world countries live in primitive housing with no running water and no electricity because there's no infrastructure in their country to facilitate housing. In the US, people choose or have to live in tents or in buses or in cars or simply on the streets because our country refuses to invest in the infrastructure that would allow them to have housing or even affordable housing.
My property taxes are going to go up $600 a year from now on. I got a letter that my homeowner's insurance is going up $60 a month. My propane company sent me a letter that my propane is going to double this year. They just came and filled up my tank. It was $1,000.
I live and work in Spain, making roughly 1,000 euros a month, which in America is nothing, but in Spain is more than enough to live. I only work 16 hours a week, and I'm able to afford a super nice apartment in the city center of Madrid. Food costs me 20 euros a week. My electric bill is like 30 euros a month. I don't have to worry about gas or a car payment or insurance because the public transportation system is so world class that you don't even need a car at all.
All right, fam, let's cut to the chase. MAGA voters are screaming about Europe being poor and third world, while America's own streets are turning into a survival challenge with people living in cars and healthcare, bankrupting families. Welcome back to Mind Mirror. Let's dive in.
In case you don't realize just how bad the economy is, no one is buying anything anymore. Oh wait, sorry, not no one. Actually, half of all consumer spending for the first time in history is just the top 10% of American households. You know what that means? Our economy is literally held up by wealthy people because they are the only people who can afford to buy shit. And by the way, this doesn't mean that wealthy people are so amazing because they're helping our economy grow. No, why do you think they're the only people that could afford anything? Don't even get me started on the ultra wealthy people because get this, since the 1980s, billionaires' wealth has grown by 4,500% while wages only grew by 15%. And while workers' wages only grew 15%, rent went up 400%. College tuition went up 1,200%. Groceries went up 300%. So who's benefiting here? And here's a hint, it's probably not you. It's probably not your family. It's probably not your friends. So why are you defending them so hard? Oh, I think I'll be a billionaire one day, is what you say to yourself. Get the fuck over yourself.
Just said the quiet part out loud. Half of all consumer spending is from the top 10%. That's not an economy. That's life support. And these guys are still defending billionaires like they're going to get a personal invitation to the yacht party. Newsflash, my guy. Elon ain't sliding into your DMs to split the cost of a SpaceX ticket. 4,500% wealth growth for billionaires versus 15% for you. Do the math or don't. The numbers are still going to be brutal. Stop simping for people who'd use your wallet as a doormat for a tax cut. It's not a good look.
I got a letter recently that my property taxes are going to go up $600 a year from now on. I got a letter that my homeowner's insurance is going up $60 a month. My propane company sent me a letter that my propane is going to double this year. They just came and filled up my tank. It was $1,000. That's crazy. Also, as a entrepreneur and business owner, I get my health insurance through the marketplace. So you have the Affordable Care Act. I pay $45 a month. They just informed me that if this bill passes and I lose my tax credit, I'm going to go from $45 a month to $660 a month for health insurance. I need to buy a new car and I can't, because the cars have gotten more expensive and the interest rates have gotten so much more expensive. I can't find a reliable car that has the same monthly payment of $450 a month that I've been paying now for a new car. Not necessarily new, but new to me. Groceries are insane, and it feels like every day I get a new email from another subscription that I have, whether it's Netflix, my website subscription, everything's increasing in price. And I sit pretty much every day stressed about money, and yet I know that there are so many people in this country that are way worse off than me, and they're not making it, y'all. They're not making it. What hurts me the most is that there are so many women especially that just cannot afford to leave abusive homes, and they have to stay in it because of this economy. So are we great again, America? Like, is this what you voted for? Meanwhile, they all sit there in DC not feeling any of these pressures, not doing anything about it, not giving a shit about the American people. I have been extremely poor and I have been extremely wealthy. And I know from firsthand experience that the wealthy people don't notice it. And most people are pretty self-absorbed and aren't thinking about other people anyway. So we got to talk about this more. We got to raise hell. We have to let DC know that this is not acceptable, regardless of your party.
This is straight fire, property taxes up, insurance up, propane costs, dancing and healthcare about to go from a coffee budget to a mortgage payment, and we've got folks out there complaining about, I don't know, the color of a fast food mascot. Meanwhile, your entire cost of living has gone supernova, and you're celebrating like the Dems took your favorite show off the air. Real practical move right now. Audit your subscriptions, cancel 3 things this week that you barely use, then start that side hustle. Because waiting on political theater to fix your budget is like waiting for a pigeon to deliver your mail.
We have got to help each other.
The fact is, we are not. Far from it. An illustration of this is the recent study by the Institute of Economic Affairs that found that when voters were asked to guess where the UK would rank in terms of GDP per capita if it were a US state, gave on average the response of 7th. The actual answer is 51st. We are poorer than every single US state. And this is a problem. Because if voters don't grasp how far behind we are falling and its consequences for their standards of living and security, then they will be less likely to accept some of the difficult decisions we have to take to fix our economy.
I think the reason to come to France is because you're going to have a much better life here, a much higher quality of life for half the cost of living in the United States. And especially for retirees, they can really make their Social Security and their retirement budget spread a lot further, but they can have a life that they can't really have in the U.S. France has the #1 health care system in the world for the least amount of cost, which is amazing. If you're in the center of Europe, which we are, you have access to all of Europe and beyond by being here, which you can't do from the U.S.
It's very well connected.
There's a long list of reasons to be here.
You're not depressed, you just live in the U.S. I moved from the U.S. to Europe, and I plan on never going back. Living here has been so affordable and stress-free. I even had my baby here. It cost me about $1,300 to give birth here, and I got paid $400 by the state to have a baby here. It's just such a different culture here. Like, people aren't only centered by their work and their job. You get to actually enjoy life and do things on your own time. And I feel like right now is probably the best time to leave the US. And yes, that's everywhere in the world, but it's just so different when you live in a country other than the US. I moved to a tiny country in Europe for the past year, and I am 6 hours ahead of the US. So that means 3 p.m. here is 9 a.m. there. So I have until 3 p.m. every single day to do whatever I want to do. It's been incredible. So if you can, move out of the US and live in another country, because life is just so much simpler elsewhere. The food is better, the air is...
Giving birth for around $1,300 and getting $400 back from the state? That's just wild. Meanwhile, you leave a U.S. hospital and your new car payment looks like your old rent. And we still have people proudly proclaiming Europe as some kind of socialist dystopia, bro. You're grinding 60 hours a week so your boss can buy a 3rd yacht. Who's truly living in dystopia? Seriously. If you're under 35 and have any remote work flexibility, start researching Portugal or Spain. Your money stretches further, your stress levels drop, and nobody's going to get shot at the grocery store.
It's cleaner, the education is free, the healthcare is free, and you'll have a lot higher quality of life elsewhere other than the US.
Let's be honest, America is looking more and more like a third world country. Take a look at some of these photos of the New York City subways. They look nothing like a first world country. Now compare these photos to photos of subways in other major cities in the world. Dubai, Stockholm, Singapore, Tokyo, Warsaw, or even Moscow.
Or China. It's called investing in your public infrastructure, son.
Now, America is richer than all of these countries, so it's not a wealth problem. It's a people problem.
Bruh. No, it's quite literally a wealth problem. It's a matter of where that wealth is going. New York City is home to some of the richest people in the world. You're surrounded by wealth. Giant skyscrapers, ludicrously wealthy Wall Street investors. That is where the wealth of our country is being funneled. But under our unregulated capitalist system, everywhere that wealth accumulates, poverty accumulates as well. And we don't invest anything in taking care of our public infrastructure or taking care of our people. So you end up with things like a lot of homeless people in the subway, despite the fact that we're the richest country in the world. We don't use our country's wealth to take care of our people. It's a wealth problem, not a people problem. And I got a problem with people like you saying that it's a problem with the people. People of
America is becoming a third world country more and more every day. I'm starting to understand Republicans the far right side, the red, all that. So I don't like this shit at all.
Something is breaking in America, folks, and it's not subtle anymore. Groceries are up 25% since 2020. Housing up 45%. Rent declared unaffordable in 98% of U.S. counties. People aren't downsizing, they're being priced out of existence. Right now, over 1.9 million Americans live in vehicles. That number has tripled since 2018, and it's climbing fast. Not because people want adventure, but because the system stopped working for them. Everyone feels it. The pressure, the squeeze, the quiet collapse in slow motion. But here's the part they don't want to talk about. Nomad life is no longer an alternative lifestyle. It's becoming a survival.
Nearly 2 million Americans are now living in vehicles, and that number's tripled in just a few years. And yet, we're still debating if someone can use the bathroom that matches their identity. This guy's right. Van life isn't a quirky trend anymore. It's a desperate survival strategy. The same people calling Europe poor are the ones trying to figure out how to charge their phones at a truck stop. If you're feeling that economic squeeze, your biggest leverage is cutting housing costs. Get roommates, move in with family, swallow that pride, because pride doesn't keep the lights on.
Strategy and a movement. Every single day, thousands more join the road. Not homeless, systemless, not lost, unplugged. If you feel like society is cracking, you're not alone. This is the transition era, and you are watching a new America being built on wheels.
I don't think this is an accurate representation of what the U.S. is, and here's why. The U.S. is not a third world country. First of all, third world country is a very derogatory term that was meant to describe Cold War era politics. First world countries were democracies. Second world countries were dictatorships or communist. Third world countries were countries who pretty much weren't involved in the fight. They didn't care. They're called developing countries now. Or honestly, in my opinion, they're just countries. But anyway, I get what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. But I disagree, and here's why. If we're even using the term third world, governments in third world countries have to let their citizens die of treatable illnesses because the government themselves can't afford to get those treatments to them. Or there's not enough infrastructure in the country to facilitate those treatments. The U.S. is very different. We choose to let our impoverished citizens die of treatable illnesses because we don't care enough to find an accurate way to get them treatment. People in third world countries live in primitive housing with no running water and no electricity because there's no infrastructure in their country to facilitate housing. In the U.S., people choose or have to live in tents or in buses or in cars or simply on the streets because our country refuses to invest in the infrastructure that would allow them to have housing or even affordable housing. Children in impoverished third world countries end up dying from starvation or are hungry because their country can't afford to invest in the infrastructure that would allow them to have that food, to have that stability. The U.S. chooses to allow 5 million children to live in abject poverty and to go to bed hungry every night because we don't care enough to make infrastructure to get these children and their families fed. The U.S. is not a third world country wearing a Gucci belt. The U.S. is a first world country that doesn't give a flying fuck about its citizens in any way, shape, or form. There's a genuine difference, and I think it's an important one.
And if you go to New York, which I think depicts this very well, you will see a lot of people wearing like Louis Vuitton, McQueen, and all of those fancy stuff and still be taking the train. No car, no credit, no nothing. Just them and the Louis. Just them and the Louis.
The poorest state in America is now wealthier than the UK.
This is the realest take I've heard. America isn't a third world country in the traditional sense. It's a first world country that demonstrably does not care about its citizens. We have the wealth, we have the resources, we just actively choose not to deploy them. For the majority, 5 million kids going to bed hungry in the richest nation on earth, let that truly sink in, and while that's happening, people are getting riled up about trivial culture war nonsense. Focus on your local community, donate to local charities, volunteer your time, because the cavalry isn't coming from Washington.
Mississippi, if you look at why Mississippi, I mean, I keep saying it in a certain way because when you're out there, people can't believe that Mississippi is wealthier than Britain. But if you understand what Mississippi is to the Americans, it's a pretty remarkable stat. But Mississippi has become wealthier than Britain per capita because one of the reasons is their approach to employment regulations. So it's like, we can preach that, this employment rights bill is going to make everything better for everyone and it's going to improve rights. But the reality is it's going to result in a lot less job creation, a lot less wage growth, right? And a lot less economic opportunity. Is completely the opposite of the direction that we want to be going in if we want to be creating wealth. The American dream, when you go out there, it's just very alive and kicking. It's not political. It's completely apolitical. It's embraced by absolutely everyone. Doesn't matter what your role is in society, whether you're an entrepreneur yourself or whether you work for a business. Everyone has the mentality that they are an entrepreneur. They treat themselves like a business. They have their own business plan of where they want to go in life, and it's so clear. Whereas I think if you come over here and you go around Westminster or Whitehall, it's like, who's talking about the British dream? Like, is there even a British dream? I don't know what the British dream is anymore. That hasn't always been the case, and again, we've had political parties of all stripes and colours, some more pro-business than others, but it doesn't feel like the British dream is a priority for the government. It's certainly not a priority for this government. In the same way, it's an absolute priority for every single American government, governor, mayor, maybe not the new mayor of New York, but any other governing entity at the moment. It's an absolute priority for them, to the point where it's completely off the cards to even touch it.
Most Americans don't.
Mississippi being richer than the UK per capita sounds impressive, until you realize Mississippi is a state with massive systemic poverty. GDP per capita is a vanity metric when all that wealth is concentrated in a tiny fraction of the population. This speaker is pulling the classic average versus median trick, like a snake oil salesman. Imagine Jeff Bezos and 10 broke dudes walk into a bar. The average net worth is $1 billion, but none of them can afford a round of drinks. My practical advice? Stop measuring your success against abstract national statistics. Measure it against your bills and your savings account. Because when the economy is great is the talking point, it feels a lot different when your pantry is bare.
Earn enough to afford the basic costs of living. More Americans can't afford medical care. More Americans can't afford health care or prescriptions. Most Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency expense. This is exactly why we need one fair wage.
This article stating that the bottom 60% of Americans can't afford a basic minimum quality of life is such a misdirect in the way it's being presented, because 60% is a huge majority of the country. To say that they cannot afford the minimal quality of life in terms of being able to afford rent, housing, putting food on the table for you and your family, and a basic quality of life. And actually, it goes on to interestingly discuss also employment statistics, which are much more horrifying than we realize, because we very often get presented with, oh, the unemployment rate is only 4-point-something%. It's so low, it's come down. But that doesn't equate for people who are living at poverty level with the income that they are making, because there's a huge number of people who are working such low income jobs that it ultimately is still a level of poverty. And there's also a huge amount of people that have jobs but don't have full-time employment. They're unable to attain for that. And apparently the statistic of that is much closer to 24%. And when you look at the constant increase in cost of living, the fact that now we're paying tariffs on things that we're getting cheaper from other countries, so they're now becoming more expensive, it is just absolutely mind-blowing that 60% is already the number, because that number is just undoubtedly going to continue to climb for the entire country.
A lot of Americans prefer living in Europe.
When I was in America for 27 years, I was like, America's the best country in the world. We have everything. We have more of it. Everybody wants our culture, our movies, our music. So then I moved to Europe. My first plan was, I will come here, I will visit every country in Europe, and then I will go home.
And then
some art teacher. Then I'm like, I think this system is better. If you have a baby here, the mother is entitled to paid maternity leave. Americans don't even know what that means. If I were to be here and I break my arm, it's within the healthcare. You feel sick, go to the doctor, check it out. You don't have to pay. In America, you pay for every single step of the way. My son or my daughter, she will go to college for free. In America, it's like $1 trillion industry trying to get into college. Yeah. You need a scholarship. You need to earn that. It's like $20,000 in debt, $40,000 in.
He just casually dropped that college is free and his daughter is set for life. Meanwhile, we have folks in their late 20s still drowning in 6 figures of student loan debt, working jobs that barely cover their rent. The very people who champion American exceptionalism are often the ones whose kids are paying a fortune just for basic education, The American dream seems to have been outsourced, and nobody bothered to send us the memo. If you have children, start a 529 plan today. Even a small amount consistently saved can make a huge difference. With compound interest, honestly, explore European universities. Many offer programs in English and cost less than a single semester at a U.S. institution.
The student loans are that's crazy.
Food is more expensive, all this kind of stuff. So now I look at Czech Republic as a super peaceful country, and I believe that the Czech system for myself is better.
I live and work in Spain, making roughly 1,000 euros a month, which in America is nothing, but in Spain is more than enough to live. I only work 16 hours a week, and I'm able to afford a super nice apartment in the city center of Madrid. Food costs me 20 euros a week. My electric bill is like 30 euros a month. I don't have to worry about gas or a car payment or insurance because the public transportation system is so world class that you don't even need a car at all. Madrid is like the New York of Spain, except if you were living in the city center of New York, you'd have to be making literally at least $5,000 a month, and that's extremely lowballing it. Just their way of life in general, like, is so much more relaxed and just taking time to enjoy life rather than just working constantly. They literally have a siesta in the middle of the day where they take 3 hours to go nap or go to a coffee shop to hang out with friends. Like, the American mind cannot fathom. It's just crazy to me because, like, you've been told growing up your whole life that America is the best country in the world. That's just so far from the truth. And it's, like, very obvious how much worse it is now that I've gotten out.
Is it coming? Oh, I'm so confused.
Do you guys recycle paper towels here?
What? That's it. And their soap is spray. They also have escalators that stop when no one's near them. They're like motion censored.
So I'm convinced Germany is just living in like 2060 in the United States.
Are you telling me the American education system is the best in the world?
Yes.
Let's test that out. A farmer has 17 sheep, all but 9 die. How many are left?
0.
And they literally let you graduate without basic math skills?
This is a beautiful comment that I'm gonna debunk in 20 seconds.
Germany has escalators that stop when no one's around. And in the US, we have graduates who can't even perform basic subtraction. And we wonder why people fall for every single misleading headline they see online, calling our education system the best in the world, when the evidence suggests otherwise is just sad. This level of widely accepted ignorance becomes a feature, not a bug, when certain groups benefit from a populace that isn't critically thinking. My practical advice, commit to reading 1 book a month. Any book. Just engage your brain. Your intellect is the one asset they can't tax, can't regulate, and can't take away from you.
Let's talk about age of retirement in Europe with public pension versus age of retirement in America with private pension. In Europe, most systems now have a public pension where you pay taxes, and once you get to the right age, you get the money back in form of a pension. I won't go too much into detail for this. In America, on the other hand, the pension is private. Namely, you get some part of your paycheck out, which you decide how much. That part of the paycheck you're taking out is not taxed. It is deferred, but we're gonna talk about this another time. And you put it into an investment account. And then you can take out the money from that investment account at retirable age. The comment says that in America you have to work until you fall apart. But that is actually the opposite. Because the public pension given in Italy is now given back to people at the age of over 60. Basically, when your sack reaches your knees. The 401k system, on the other hand, the age is 55. A mere 10 years younger. Now, of course, you're responsible for your 401k. So if you're frugal since the beginning, you'll be good. If you're the average American spender, it will take you a little bit longer. Unfortunately, in this world, people don't want responsibility. So I understand why the public system is so much easier to have. But if you do the 401k properly, your pension will be much higher than a normal public pension. Because in most cases in the public pension, you get back less than what you put in. I'm talking now about the Italian example. So the whole retirement age discussion of America versus US is 100% a US win. Because I don't think there's many European countries that let you retire in your 50s. Peace!
Hey Finland, I have a question. Yes, what is it? So I heard that you're the only country in the EU with decreasing homelessness and it's fallen 75% since 2008. Is that true? That is correct. What are you guys doing for that? Because in the US it just keeps getting worse and worse and I can't figure out for the life of me what we're doing wrong. Well, have you tried a national program to give people housing without preconditions like income or sobriety? No. What about converting centers into permanent housing like apartments? No. And then integrating social services directly into that housing? No. Or a national program to intervene and prevent evictions before they happen? No. What about a universal basic allowance for low-income people? No. Or a national pension for retirees to have a minimum income? No. Or universal healthcare so people don't go bankrupt over medical costs? No. Well, there are some ideas for you. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna make sleeping outside illegal and put some more spikes on the benches.
This animated segment absolutely eviscerated the US approach to social issues, and frankly, it was deserved. Finland has a comprehensive plan to end homelessness, while we're over here adding spikes to park benches to make them unusable. The default MAGA solution to almost every societal ill seems to be punish the poor, build a wall, and find an external enemy to blame. Nah, the real problem is domestic. It's happening right here. The call is coming from inside the house. If you're feeling that sense of despair and helplessness, get involved locally. Your city council, your school board, your state representatives. That's where you can actually influence policy and see tangible change, unlike the circus that is national politics.
70%. 70% of Americans are struggling day to day just to put food on their table. We go to college, we get a degree, we go to work, but it's still not enough. That is me. It's still not enough. It's still not enough to pay all the bills. I racked up credit card debt. I'm struggling. I've taken out unnecessary loans just to pay for the credit cards that...
So there you have it, folks. MAGA voters are busy looking down on Europe while America's own safety net is fraying at the seams, and healthcare costs are spiraling out of control. The reality is, we have the resources, but the priorities are wildly out of whack. So, the big question, if you could pack your bags and move to another country, would you? And if so, where would you go? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, like, share, and subscribe.